spent about half of the 2020s hosting a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing movies that came out on time in my universe but got delayed in that other universe. And as such, the movies as they were in my universe came out differently. Some listeners not of this universe even think that this is an improvised comedy podcast. And hey, let them think what they want. It's entertaining either way, right? I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay Season 6. Hashtag 6 seasons about movies. New episode every other Saturday. Unless I say otherwise. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and joining me for the first time since Season 1, a good friend of mine, it is Elbert. How's it going?
It's going. Hey, Steve. What's up?
Not much. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we talked about how we were doing before the recording, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into my life details on air, so
yeah,
let's just say everything is going well.
Yeah, don't tell them your social security number or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
no, it's okay, because you can just bleep out the bleep, 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 right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first time I had you on the show, you told me beforehand that you like when people say, "Oh, I'm gonna edit that out," and then they just don't edit that thing out of the podcast.
Please, this time maybe we would want to edit some things out. We'll see how that goes.
Right. So I guess for starters, so we're talking about How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action 2025 film. So for starters, what has been your experience with the How to Train Your Dragon franchise? Have you read the books or seen the movies or seen the shows? What's your experience?
Overall, just the franchise in general, I am kind of a purist when it comes to the mainline DreamWorks animation studios in terms of seeing kind of exclusively their movies. And I mean that in the sense that, like, in some of their shows, you could kind of tell the budget tanks in a lot of places. And I think that that's, like, fine. It just isn't for me. And I feel that, like, I don't know if those are confirmed canon or not. So I'm okay kind of sticking to source material. That being said, the How to Train Your Dragon original first movie is one of my comfort movies. If I'm ever sick, if I'm ever feeling bad, I'll have rewatched that movie 100 times over. And I understand, like, the animation budget has gotten much better since 2 and 3, but the first one definitely holds a special place in my heart.
So the animated shows, I get what you mean about how, like, they show their budget, and I think that's par for the course for a bunch of the DreamWorks shows. But I think the shows are considered canon, at least the How to Train Your Dragon related TV shows. And I do like that even though it is a lower budget, they still feel like the characters, and they still have, like, some sort of serialized arcs, like some recurring threats and stuff. So I kind of like having those gaps filled in. It scratches that itch for me. That being said, since the third movie, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, I don't think I've seen any of the shows that have come out since then, if there are any. I don't remember if there are shows or specials, but I remember there was, like, some holiday related thing where, like, Hiccup is, like, all grown up or something. He has a beard.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I haven't been exposed to anything like that. I know on Hulu they had this one show that I think is supposed to be like a modern day dragons. Did you see that at all?
I don't think I've looked too deeply into that.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was not a fan. I only watched, like, the first 2 or 3 episodes because I'm giving it the 2 to 3 episode benefit of the doubt type of thing.
But more
And I
often
was
than
just
not,
like
the first
not
couple episodes of
feeling.
anything suck.
Yeah, this is why I give it 3 and not like just 1. You need to do the world building, and I just did not like the world that they were building.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it, but that situation kind of reminds me of Spirit. You know Spirit, right? Like the DreamWorks movie about the horse, and then they made like an animated show that takes place in like modern day, and it's like supposed to be like a descendant of that horse or something.
So I remember the movie. I don't remember that. I didn't even know that they came out with a show afterwards. um, okay, cool, neat, love that for them.
No, yeah, the show came out on
sexy
Netflix.
horse with dreamy hair. Yeah.
Yeah, the show came out on Netflix like way later, to the point where it's like, who even remembers Spirit? It feels like such a niche movie. You know, those who remember it being good, but it's not like Finding Nemo level where like everyone and their uncle has seen it or whatever.
You know, I'm okay though, because like when you make things for like such niche audiences, like you're hitting, right? You're hitting like all of the like young kids who became like horse people as adults, and they're like, oh, my kids now need to see this. This is what I live for, you know? This dreamy horse with like magnificent hair. Because that is honestly the most I remember about Spirit, period.
Yeah, when he said becoming horse people, I was imagining like anthropomorphic, like
centaurs.
Yeah, or like BoJack Horseman, or like that movie Sorry to Bother You, or something.
That's even worse. Oh, life is pain. Let me get a drink. Okay.
Right, but yeah, so this live action movie, well, in general, what's your opinion of things that get so well known in animation getting adapted into live action?
Okay. I am in the camp where it goes one of two ways. I am in the camp of where it is either going to be kind of crap, because you're taking way too many liberties, with the original intent of the story. And then there's also the other hand, though, where it can be done in a way where it's a good introduction to people today. That being said, though, there are so many things of animation that feel very timeless that they don't need a live action rendition revisit later. If anything, just like a theatrical re-release, is that what that's called? Where like they come out again later on in theaters. Like, I think that's cool. They do that all the time for like Ghibli films and things like that. So, I should probably get that.
Yeah, I feel like pretty often stuff looks better in animation. You know, if it started out in animation, the colors are more vibrant and it's better looking. And then when they try adapting it to live action, sometimes the colors feel kind of faded to like make it look more realistic. And at that point, it's like, why the hell am I watching this? Like, this doesn't give me as much joy, you know?
The expressions on faces, you can do a lot more with subtle expressions in animation, because they don't have to be as subtle in animation, where in live action expressions, like, if you don't make them subtle, will feel disingenuous. And it hits that weird uncanny valley area between like not being able to provoke the right feeling or feel lifeless. And it's like, unless you're hitting that perfect spot in the middle, like animation, you can kind of just go, wow, then it doesn't matter. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of the uncanny valley, here's something that I don't know if you might know the answer to, but Why are they called Uncanny X-Men? Like, what does that title mean? Like, is it just some random adjective to separate it from other X-Men titles, or like, what does Uncanny X-Men actually mean?
You know, normally in like the real world, that's not something I would know. But considering that this is alternate universe us, obviously I have opinions on everything. Obviously, I have like not necessarily the correct answer, but I'm entitled to opinions of my own. Um, and I feel that the term uncanny in the comic book verse is supposed to help garner and push the idea that these are people slightly off from being regular people. Because that's honestly what I feel what like the term uncanny is everything is right except only slightly not, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. And that is what the Uncanny X-Men are. It's a series where everything is only slightly not right where it's supposed to be, and everything feels really awkward. And that's why X-Men should never be in the Avengers universe. But that's a different opinion.
Yeah, well, good luck with that opinion on the Avengers universe thing. Like, it's already too late for that, but yeah, that's an interesting way of reasoning, and also kind of messed up that the comics sort of give them and the mutants, the X-Men, an insensitive moniker, I guess. Like, oh, you are slightly off, but yeah, like I always thought uncanny meant it's like so close. I had like the same idea basically, but looking at it from the other way, where it's like, oh, it's so close to looking exact, which I always thought was weird because when I think of the X-Men, I think of how often they can look pretty different from regular people. Like, Iceman when he's in his full ice form, Beast, Wolverine when he has his claws and stuff out, and Nightcrawler, Mystique. So yeah.
No, I think that makes sense, but it's definitely kind of akin to the idea that the X-Men and just mutants in general are like not quote unquote regular superheroes, and they're living in a time where it's like accepted or not accepted, and that's kind of their whole story. And that's why I feel like it doesn't make sense for them to live in the same universe ever, unless it was a specific time period. But that's aside from the point. Something political, social, economic, underlying terms and nonsense, and you can bleep out whatever you want to bleep out.
Speaking of time periods, so in this movie, it begins pretty much the same way that the 2010 How to Train Your Dragon animated movie began. It's like the first 10 minutes basically is like shot for shot exactly the same, but live action. And then they show us, Toothless and Hiccup and all of his friends and stuff. But then we get this revelation that, oh, they're actually like doing a play based on the events of the first movie, and this is actually some later time period. And there are dragons around again, but they like basically act as trains, and it's like a kind of a steampunky time period. And like the guy who played Hiccup in this play, his name is Upchuck. So I thought that was kind of funny there. But what did you think of this whole reveal?
I thought that was actually super interesting. I'm glad that you mentioned that the first 10 minutes were like shot for shot, because I didn't feel like I missed anything, because I definitely went in line to go get popcorn during the first 10 minutes, and I walked into the movie and I had no idea what I was watching. I wasn't sure at all like where we were and what was happening when I walked in, and like I just saw a curtain fall. But like, after a while you kind of get into that, you kind of understand what's going on. And I feel that in the steampunk style universe, the like their quote unquote like on stage special effects were kind of phenomenal.
Yeah, like they treat the older movies like they're, events that happened in the past, and this is their tradition of passing them down. And on the note, you mentioned food, which, before I forget, during the promotion for this movie, Burger King had like this How to Train a Dragon themed meals. Like, have you seen this?
Not okay. So since I moved to like classic Bay Area, California, there's like one Burger King in my entire like anywhere within the last 30 minutes from me. Like I have like no more franchise restaurants. So no, I did not. Was it a whole Burger King Happy Meal, kids meal type of deal? Were they giving out little Charmanders inside Pokeballs? um,
I mean, maybe for the kids, but the thing that I got was basically it was like, you get the Whopper or whatever, and they kind of tint the bun so that it looks like it has red on it. That's supposed to be like the red flame. It's kind of lame, to be honest. Like, it's not that different, but the fudge sundae looked kind of neat. Like, it had like these crumbles that were greenish in it, and that kind of reminded me of the movie. And they also had like this, I don't remember what they call it, like the dragon fire lemonade or something. It's like this pink lemonade. I don't remember if they did anything with the French fries. I'd have to look at my pictures, and maybe I have them like right here.
I'm surprised they didn't have anything that was like toothless shaped, like having the bun with like little ears, and then like inside they made like little teeth. But I guess that's like a lot of work for a Burger King.
No, yeah, Burger King is very low effort. Go ahead and sponsor us, Burger King.
I mean, you saw what Wendy's did with that SpongeBob collab, and they didn't even have a movie coming out or anything like that. They just decided to come out with.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah,
like the Krabby Patty felt like, with all the talk you hear about Krabby Patties in the SpongeBob universe, you expect it to taste super special, but it just felt like any other Wendy's cheeseburger.
Dude, it was a Dave's single with a pineapple in it. Like that's what it was. Yeah. It didn't even have like the sesame bun. Like,
yeah, and like at least with
like there was a whole episode on like what there was a whole episode in SpongeBob about like how to build a Krabby Patty. And
no,
like,
yeah, I have it like memorized.
They didn't do anything.
First bun, then patty, followed by ketchup, mustard, pickles, extra onions in that particular case, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, and bun in that order.
Yeah, and there was no pineapple. Except my Wendy's Dave single had a pineapple in it, because that's what made it a Krabby Patty, apparently.
Yeah.
But I will say,
just break down SpongeBob's house and sell it in burgers.
Yeah, I will say though, that pineapple like slushy that they had, that was fire. That was good.
Oh yeah, I think I might have gotten that too. But when they did like the Good Burger promotion over at I think it was Arby's who did that, they at least had the sauce that looks somewhat like the Ed sauce from Good Burger, so yeah.
Nice. No, that's good. I appreciate Arby's a lot, because Arby's, as much as like, that is Meat Mountain like sandwich galore, when they get into their marketing schemes, when they get into like those like Twitter battles with Wendy's and things like that, like they're up there and like supporting niche, funny, hilarious communities. So
yeah, man, what is up with corporate restaurant accounts like commenting on each other's stuff? Like on before April Fool's Day, when Sour Patch Kids were pretending that they were taking the sour out of their candies, you had like all these other companies like Domino's and all sorts of different brands commenting in that announcement post. It was really weird.
We can speculate that all we want, but yeah, I don't know. Do you know if because I know Arby's likes to do promos where they do like promote video games and movies and things like that, and they make a bunch of things out of like Arby's like burger boxes and sandwich boxes and things like that sort. I know there was one year at a large fighting game tournament that they just straight up built Nightmare and Soul Calibur out of Arby's boxes, full armor set, and it was just like Arby's things. I feel like they could do really well with an Arby's full-sized Toothless.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. It kind of makes me think of that Courage the Cowardly Dog episode where this pig guy makes these burgers that are like sculpted to look like people's faces, because it's like high effort or something.
Dude, people's faces in sculpting is incredibly high effort. Don't ask how I know.
Oh, okay. I was gonna suggest how you know, but okay, I won't say anything.
But no. we can leave that to mystery. It's fine. Subscribe to Patreon, and then you can find out.
Yeah, and if you get on the higher tier, you'll get access to the Discord.
Yeah,
where the other 2 people who have subscribed will be there as well.
Yeah, this is alternate versions of us, right? So we have Patreon and other social medias and are active on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have those, but the ones in that other universe don't, I guess. Before everyone realized that this movie was not like an actual remake, before people knew the reveal, there was some hubbub about Nico Parker playing Astrid because they said, oh, she doesn't look like Astrid. And of course, in this version that we have watched, she's playing someone playing Astrid in a play, so it's a non-issue. But even if she were actually playing Astrid, I think people making too big of a deal about it and should just get over it,
Yeah, it's fine. Are you going to get an entirely Norse cast?
Right.
Because you know that's not what they're complaining about.
Yeah, that they don't actually care about that, and yeah.
The people that are complaining about that thing aren't looking for specifically a cast with a Nordic background, in specifically the Welsh or what other areas in the North European spaces. They're not looking for Celtic Nordish backgrounds. They are looking for looks white, and that, sir, is already an invalid statement.
Right. But yeah, we also have these other actors. Gerard Butler, in the play he played Stoic, and coincidentally he's the dad of Upchuck, who plays Hiccup. And so it's the conflict here is oh, you have to be in this play and live up to the legacy. And so Upchuck feels like he has a lot of responsibility foisted upon him when he wants to do other stuff. But what'd you think of that particular story thread in this?
First off, I didn't even realize that was Gerard Butler because they do such a good job at making, masking, cloning, whatever, making him look actually Nordic, as opposed to just being Scottish. So that aside from that point, I think Gerard Butler has always done and forever will be a fantastic actor and always do a good job, and no matter what he does is kind of untouchable. Not to say that I'm a Gerard Butler stan or anything, but I'm kind of a Gerard Butler stan.
Yeah, it sounds like you probably have a Gerard Butler Tumblr shrine or something.
Don't ask me how I know.
But yeah, you also have Nick Frost as the guy who plays Gobber, and I thought that was an interesting bit of casting. Like you've seen Shaun of the Dead in those movies, right?
Of course I have.
The you of this universe has seen those movies.
Yeah, let's go with that. Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, he had all the facial hair, and it just worked. It's yeah.
No, I think he had the right look for sure. I think that he's one of the people I could tell that was just him. I don't think he he wasn't even wearing Nordic clothes. I mean, he was literally being him, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and there are people on Reddit sort of complaining about that, how they didn't make an effort to make him look more different from himself, but kind of just whatever about it.
I mean, we're not even playing like the real movie. Like, this is the steampunk version of it. They can, he's in his, like, his classic cardigan and like polo button up, whatever, because they're not in that actual time period. This is in the future. It's fine. He can wear whatever he wants. Leave him alone.
Yeah. And you have like the like young people who were in this play. They get this mission, this assignment, which is because apparently there's some tension between a couple different regions, and they're trying to maintain the peace, so they have to deliver this huge shipment of lumpia over to this other region. So they hop on the dragon train and, go on their journey there. Was this kind of random to you, or what did you think of this here?
No, I just want to say shout outs to my Filipino brethren. That is the fact that they had a call to lumpia anyway, one of the greatest foods of all time, as a peace offering is big piece, big like, I have a slightly biased opinion on that, but I think it's okay.
All right. But then you have like this, things are going well, they're traveling, they're bonding, but then they are suddenly attacked by these giant prairie dogs who are trying to get the lumpia. What'd you think of their designs and how they looked?
I always thought that the dragon designs themselves have, okay, as the movies in the original series have like gone on, the original dragon designs have gone from being like a very dragon to becoming much more like having a lot more freedom with how they design their dragons. And so having other creatures out in the world does not surprise me, and I think that like a giant prairie dog was kind of hilarious in like a very good like DreamWorks fashion in a way, in the sense that like this is still very much like a kids movie, and it's still very fun and still very exciting, but still has lots of good tension and build up when the prairie dogs were like close.
Yeah, and you could tell that they were taking, there was variation in the prairie dog designs, and you could tell that they took inspiration from like different dog breeds. Like, you have the one that's like obviously Chihuahua inspired. You have one that's like,
oh, you mean the biggest one?
yeah, like it's the biggest prairie dog, but the shape and the sound, it feels more like a Chihuahua. And you also have like the one that's like the dog with all the poofy hair that like covers its eyes or whatever. I don't remember what that breed is called, but I think people know what I'm talking about.
The French poodle?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's go with that. Sure. Yeah. I my favorite definitely was the battle pug. Shout outs to battle pug anyway. They're them making references to other large dogs to randomly run rampant amongst the prairies was peak in terms of being able to make references and shout outs. So
what'd you think of their solution to warding off the prairie dogs as they're being bombarded by them?
I think their solution of getting their like train dragons from that are crossing over the sea and like pulling up the kelp forest to note that like to carry moisture into the air and like have their dragons do fun stuff with that, doing some like fake DreamWorks magic or like science, because this is a movie about science, obviously.
But according to Thor, they're one and the same.
Exactly, yeah. So it's fine. We're good. Having them pull off like fake movie magic or with like kelp detractors almost felt like a Batman shock repellent cop out, but also another funny reference that like I didn't mind because of how hilarious things were. You know,
it was kind of maybe like a little bit convoluted, but I thought it was fun to see overall, you know. And ultimately, that's what people come to the movies for, is for fun, or to complain if they're one of those people, you know.
I mean, Steve, this is like my most treasured series. How can you make that anything different from what I've already seen 1,000 times whenever I'm sick? From the animated to live action version, something about, you know, complaining about paying for something that I've already literally seen like 100 times again.
So they're able to deliver the lumpia, and they bring it to this location where there's some people who are dealing with some sort of sickness, and you have all these doctors, these MDs, I should specify, these medical doctors. For those who don't know what MD stands for. But yeah, what'd you think of this little conflict here and the disease that they were dealing with?
Lumpia didn't solve it, that's for sure. It wasn't something that was like put in the wars. I thought that this was interesting turn of events, especially considering like it really took on the poisons and culture of the like industrial revolution and the steampunk era. Like kind of not just like making the steampunk era this like fantasy world that people think would be cool to live in, but like showing like, oh yeah, no, this is some of the background issues that would happen if people were to live in like this pseudo-industrial revolution. What work conditions actually were like in that time period, what health hazards were actually happening in this time period, and how dragons not only didn't like help solve those issues, but actually contributed to people kind of mistreating other people and really diving into really deep socioeconomic like issues throughout like this historical context.
Yeah, like you have the way that people would use these dragons as like steam dragons, and I think the steam was like part of the contributor to some of what they're experiencing and whatnot. They don't like they explain it a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I got. And so it really does feel like the movie is trying to push a message that people need to like change what's the status quo in order to, you know, protect people and protect the environment.
Yeah, it's very much so like an environmentalist movie. When you think about it in that way, just like this is what happens when you push this too far, this industrial revolution and things like that. I don't know how much, you know, you want to lean into that or get into that like topic, because like they didn't touch up on it because it really still is a kids movie, but it did bring into question that thought. So
yeah, but even touching on it a little bit was enough to set off certain people.
I mean, it's the same people that are complaining about actors not being Nordic, except they don't care about actually that. They care about them not being white.
Right. So they're trying to, you know, convince the people to change their ways, and there are all these meetings with all these different leaders in the different regions. So I thought it was really interesting how you have these teenage characters who are helping make these decisions that you pretty much expect just the adults to make. And it's something that you don't really think about in the animated stuff because it's animation, but it kind of had a different effect seeing that these are like live action people playing teenagers who are helping make those decisions, if that makes sense.
I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. I felt fine. I felt perfectly fine. I had no qualms at all with young people making good decisions for the rest of the world.
Yeah, like there was a little bit of pushback with the older generations throughout the movie, but yeah, there.
I don't doubt that, but also like we kind of live in an era where I feel like boomers at this point need to kind of like stop getting involved with world politics when things weren't the same, like are not the same way that they are 50 years ago. So, but that's a different conversation altogether.
No, yeah, but basically, like it's the same message that like people just need to chill, just let young people offer good solutions and whatnot. So I quite like that's being taught to the younger audiences who watch this movie.
For sure.
And yeah, and even in the first How to Train Your Dragon movie, that's very much about a young person trying to convince the rest of the people traditionalists, we can integrate dragons rather than being against them,
Yeah, we can be better. We're allowed to be better.
Yeah, so in that sense, this felt very much in the ethos of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise as we know it.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that like even though they did like change a lot from the original series, and I feel like it could have done better as its own series without like having the How to Train Your Dragon like name stamped on it. I feel that like it still carries a very similar like feel and theme and like is very good in a lot of ways. It just if the definitely the big issue is that like if you're looking for some like Nordic action movie set in 800, like that's not what you're getting, or I don't know, 1200, probably 1200. Like that's not what you're getting. But if you go into it a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more like world building beyond that, then I think that's actually like a cool place to be and to sit down. So
yeah, the marketing was kind of a bait and switch, here in our universe, but I think
okay, we like that here in our universe.
Yeah. Well, like if it was bad, then people would be suing over the movie trailer, but I thought this was a pretty good surprise. Whereas if it
there was literally zero people that were upset about that.
Yeah,
there were literally zero, none.
Yeah, whereas if it had been like shot for shot with the exact same character designs but just in live action, it'd be like, what's the point,
Yeah. I definitely feel that way in a lot of live action adaptations, and I understand the need / want by the director to make things based off source material, specifically because people get mad at changes to themes and stories. Cough cough Lilo and Stitch, cough cough. I think things overall were actually like they were good changes. There were things that I think had a vision, and so long as it was executed well in the vision and have the right tones and themes, like it actually opened up a lot of good things.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we, anything else about the movie's plot before we sort of go into ratings and whatnot?
I don't think so. Watch it yourself. Make your own opinions. Don't listen to two dudes sitting on their couch like rave about this thing. I mean, you definitely listen to us and subscribe to the Patreon. But form your own opinions. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Oh, what'd you think of the music? I remember the music for the original movie was such a huge thing for you when you would DM some D&D campaigns, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I loved the steampunk remixes of everything. The fact that like everything felt still on theme of this like grand orchestral adventure, but with like this weird sense of like techno steampunk and theremin stuff in the background just felt really freaking cool.
Yeah. And, I thought it really was a nice touch when the music slowed up toward the end, when it's clear that it's the dawn of a new era. There's some change happening. And then it goes into the credits, and we get the concept art during the credits, which I remember the second movie did, and I really loved how it did that. So that was a nice touch. But they also play the Charlie XCX song 360 during the credits, which, I mean, I guess, like, it's a popular song. I don't know what it has to do with the movie, but it was just kind of weird.
No, that was a random thing. I actually heard the director say that they just really liked the song, and that was kind of it, and it had nothing else to do with it. And it was just a weird choice by them, and that's like, all right, cool, I accept this thing. I've never heard the song before that, and I don't think I ever will again after. So, you know.
Right, you'll just skip the credits next time you watch this.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think with where I'm at personally in my life, I think I'm just gonna stick to the animated movies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't have no kids. I don't need to show kids this new rendition of something.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally fair. Like, these movies with live action people, they just feel too real because they have real people on screen, you know? So you kind of just want that escapism with animation.
Yeah. And, like, you know, just how more expressive people can be without being, like, live action people. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's hard to find the balance, but it's fine. The scales looked good, though.
Yeah, the scales looked really detailed on the dragons, like, on the Toothless dragon. Like, I don't know if this is supposed to be Toothless's descendant or whatever, but I thought it looked quite good, those scales.
Yeah. No, definitely, yeah. So, I'm for it.
Alright, so what are your final thoughts, score out of 10, and unit of measurement for that score for How to Train Your Dragon 2025?
Okay, final thoughts. I think it did fine. I think it is, like, you know, a cool change for a universe that is fairly well developed, and still keeps the good feelings and just touches on slight differences while still giving a good story and good themes. My overall enjoyment of it, aside from, like, the surprise of the movie being actually so different from what the originals were, is, I would say, 8 retracting teeth out of 10.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna give it. Like, I give it 8 out of 10 prop swords, you know, the prop swords that they were using in the play of version.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
They looked so real, those prop swords.
I mean, it was the bait and switch part. That was the bait and switch part, which I actually totally missed, but that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I really enjoyed this I don't know what you would call it, like a distant live action spin-off or something, I don't know. Like, I really
sequel, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Like, I really enjoyed it, and fun fact, I never saw the animated films in the theater. Like, each time I rented them or whatever after the fact. So this was a first for me, seeing this on the big screen. And
Steve, that's a disservice to the original series.
Yeah, I know.
This is why they don't need to remake, like, the movie in live action. They could just re-release the originals in the theater, and then all of us who are fans will go watch it again.
Yeah, it's all my fault for not giving them box office money. I was probably, like, super busy or something. I don't know. But
I mean, to be fair though, like, the first movies were, like, kind of no-name franchise at first, and so, like, you don't know about it. And then you realize that this is ridiculous and how freaking awesome it is later. And so, like, I am not surprised. I am just disappointed.
Yeah, I know. And, like, even though stuff in this movie looked pretty good on the big screen, there are those moments where, you know, like, if you look at the horizon or, like, the outline of a mountain or something while the sun is shining, it looks kind of blurry in places, whereas if it were animated, it would have looked better. And yeah, I think an animated, especially today with today's quality, because of how far animation has come, like I think a newer animated How to Train Your Dragon movie would just be even more eye candy.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, like, it's one of those things that, like, a year and a half down the line, when we get the Blu-ray version, and then can watch it at 120 FPS, where the movies look terrible on your screen, and you can actually see, like, Gandalf's wristwatch. We're gonna see
Gandalf's wristwatch.
We're gonna actually see that those blurry mountains in the background are just cardboard cutouts with, like, a light behind it, and that's the level of, like, clarity that we're gonna get for not watching it in theaters. So just as an announcement and a PSA, everyone, watch our movies in theaters. It's actually a better experience than watching it at home.
Yeah, and, like, speaking of DreamWorks animation, one of my roommates was watching Shrek Forever After in the other room, and
of course,
that one came out in 2010, same year as the first How to Train Your Dragon, weirdly enough, and the animation had come so far since the first Shrek movie, and now we're getting a Shrek 5, and it's like, whoa, the animation for that has got to be amazing, you know?
I mean, like, you can definitely tell, like, just looking at, like, the textures on the skin and things like that, and, like, it's very apparent in this movie too. Like, you get to see the scales. You know, we talked about the scales earlier. Like, just, yeah, you can definitely tell, like, the textures and other things just look really good. So,
right. All right, so I guess that'll do it for this movie discussion. Thanks for joining me again, Elbert. I don't know, do you have anything to plug, or do you have, like, something you recommend people watch or whatever, or play?
Yeah, definitely please follow, or what's it called? Subscribe to Patreon at Steven Shinder. The highest tier gets you access to everything that I do, and also Steven Shinder on Instagram and YouTube. All those plugs. Highest tier Patreons. This is how we keep making content, guys.
Obviously, yeah.
Dude, do you have a Patreon?
No. But anything I'm involved with, you know, socials and stuff, those will be in the show notes, and people can also check out Yes Shift, a podcast I do with my dad, where we interview people involved with the band Yes, or have worked with people from that band. And you can also email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Lumpia or something. And also go to stevenshinder.com for info on my 2 standalones and Stepping Stones novels, which have fantasy, horror, and comedy and sci-fi elements, which, I mean, you're bound to enjoy at least one of those, right? So, yeah. So
yeah. Do you have an audiobook for it yet?
I'm still working on that. So the computer I currently have is kind of whack. I actually finally went ahead and ordered another computer, so I think that'll make things easier for me to work on that sort of thing. And, like, it's been a long time coming, and yeah, so I've recorded all the lines and whatever for the first audiobook. I just need to edit them and then record for the second book, and then hopefully from then on I would just work on each subsequent audiobook as I release each subsequent book, you know?
That makes sense. Yeah. So in the meantime, the highest tier Patreon members can contact you directly, so that way you can read to them
just
at
have
night,
me read to them
if they read directly. If you're missing out on audiobooks, be sure to sub to the highest tier Patreon. That would allow Mr. Steven Shinder himself to read to you directly.
And use our code by going to Audible free trial. No.
We're not sponsored. Steve, cut it here. We're good.
Yeah.
We're done.
Okay. And without further delay, have a good day. Hey everyone, this is Steven from that other universe where movies got delayed. Let's see, what have I been watching? I think last time I was on here, I talked about Karate Kid Legends, and you can even check out a recent episode of Cinemabies with my friend Jesse, where we talked about some what-if scenarios for that movie, so go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And I'm still trying to figure out what to do next for the YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews, in video form. It's just been kind of a busy time. But in terms of other movies I've been watching, so I guess on the vibe of live action versions of what we're used to in animation, earlier this week, the 2025 Disney Snow White was put on Disney Plus, and it you know the dwarves look like they belong in Shrek. Like, they don't seem like they belong in a live action environment. So yeah, like this just wasn't gonna work. And there's some little thing, like when I was watching the animated Snow White as a kid, my favorite character was Dopey. And this movie, this remake, kind of touching on why he doesn't talk, that's such an interesting idea, but they don't do enough with it. And there are a couple more modern sounding songs that can take one out. So yeah, I don't... Maybe this could have worked with some tweaks, but it's just a meh, And people have been saying that the box office failure of this one could make Disney rethink their output with live action adaptations. And now I don't know what their actual plan is. I saw something that said they might be decreasing output but still doing, and I don't know how accurate all this is, because the live action Lilo and Stitch apparently did really well. And the marketing, when I went to see Monty Python and the Holy Grail with my friend, outside the theater, someone had a remote controlled Stitch in a car, and kids and people were so taken with this Stitch, being like, it's Stitch, and being excited. So I'm sure the marketing did its job, but online, on the socials, I kept seeing what some of the changes were from certain people, and I kind of didn't care that I was seeing the changes because I wasn't planning on seeing it in the theater anyway. And the changes that I heard about make me not want to see the movie. I mean, I'm sure I'll check it out eventually, just out of curiosity, just not in the theater or anything like that. But yeah, the changes sounded bad to me, but I also heard some people say that the way some of the changes are being described online are disingenuous, and that some people are like summarizing things in bad faith. And so I really don't know. I have not seen the remake of Lilo and Stitch. I have no stake in this because I have not seen it. I can't give a take about it. But what I will say is I'm a huge fan of the animated Lilo and Stitch films and the series. The anime shows I haven't seen enough of. Those almost feel like they're their own world because
certain characters' redemption is kind of undone, and some other things. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, like I'm a huge fan of the original Lilo and Stitch incarnation. Pleakley, to me, is a character who should be in drag. Jumba should sound a certain way. And, I've not heard Zach Galifianakis's take, but it's hard to imagine that it could be as good. And, for all I know, maybe he nails it, but there are some other things I've heard about the Jumba character in this new version that I'm not really sure about. And Gantu not being in the movie, I could kind of understand why he would be omitted, given that he's kind of just a character who shows up like he does appear in the beginning, but he kind of just is hired to show up at the end and mess up, basically does his job badly, and that's what makes him the villain. But you could argue that there's nuance to that, and how in real life there could be law enforcement that doesn't care about endangering people while they do their duty, similar to how Gantu doesn't care that he accidentally caught Lilo while trying to catch Stitch. So, and people have been saying we've had King Shark work in live action, so not having Gantu in live action is no excuse. But yeah, so I don't really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I don't think live action Disney movies will stop completely, but maybe there'll be a slowdown. And at the very least, I would hope that there's at least more thought put into reinventing things for live action if they indeed have to do so. But speaking of animation, I really loved Predator Killer of Killers. That, animation is a great avenue for going beyond the limitations of live action. Like, the original Predator is a classic, but you are limited to that one setting and to certain effects and stuff, whereas as the franchise has gone on, the end of Predator 2 hinted at, we could have Predators fight people of different eras. There's that little hint that they hadn't really taken full advantage of until Prey came out a few years back, and now Predator Killer of Killers takes that to another level, and the animation is amazing. It's kind of funny that one of these one of the stories in Killer of Killers deals with Norse characters, and it came out a week before the live action How to Train Your Dragon, which again I'm not going to see in the theater, but I'm sure eventually I'll be curious about it and see it at some point. But this animated film, it pushes the boundaries. Like, it reminds me of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and how I think, wow, how did all of this stem from the classic yet somewhat limited original movie, so I want more of this, more animation in the Predator franchise, and maybe even in the Alien franchise, and some of these other things. Planet of the Apes, have Planet of the Apes back in animation in a new style. Like, some of my, heck, even in Fast and Furious, I only love the animated series Spy Racers, and the Jurassic franchise, I love the 2 animated series more than most of the movies. So yeah, I think people, maybe this is an American thing where in the US there's not as much appreciation for animation among certain people, a bunch of different people. So yeah, like, don't knock it. Like, Predator Killer of Killers might be my favorite film of the year so far, and my favorite Predator movie. Let's see, what else have I watched recently? I watched Dogman. That's another DreamWorks movie. It's based on a book by Dave Pilkey, the author of Captain Underpants. And while I enjoyed the DreamWorks take on Captain Underpants, both the movie and the animated series, Dogman is not something I read really growing up. And the basic premise of how Dogman comes to be is kind of so horrifying to watch as an adult that it took me out of enjoying the movie, and I didn't think it was that funny, so I think that's one where it's meh for me. Let's see, I watched Paddington in Peru. I thought that was okay, maybe not as good as the first two movies. Trying to see what else I've seen that's recent. Oh, I watched Heart Eyes. That Valentine's Day slasher movie, or I guess rom-com slasher movie. That one was really refreshing because you get so invested in the rom-com elements that you really are taken off guard when the slasher elements come back into play. So, yeah, I thought that one was pretty good. In terms of TV shows, I've continued watching and enjoying Poker Face, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else I've been watching TV-wise that's new. I sometimes just end up rewatching an episode of King of the Hill. So, I don't know, maybe I need to change my habits. I know there are a couple newer shows I'm way behind on. So, yeah, I'll try to figure all that out. But you can check all my movie ratings and reviews on Letterboxd, and also follow my Goodreads for things that I'm reading. And yeah, I'm pretty easy to find on the internet and whatnot. So I guess that's it for now. Check out Delayed Replay when another episode drops in 2 weeks. And without further delay, have a good day.